This is the Stubborn German Podcast. I'm Kevin Ostie, joined by the proprietor of the Stubborn German Brewing Company in beautiful Waterloo, Illinois, Mr. Chris Ron.
Hola.
And we are joined by our guest this week, Mr. Robert Verheggen, who is a representative of the Ferm Homebrew Club.
Hello.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
And, of course, the man in control of all the buttons and dials, Mr. Jared Chasson. Jared,
Good evening.
welcome.
Good evening.
Thanks for producing again, my friend.
Anytime.
Thanks for throwing the levers.
Yes. So we have an interesting guest on and an interesting topic to talk about with a very secret society that we're going to reveal.
It's very secret.
Who these people are and what they do.
Very strange people.
Yes. But before we go that direction, for those who've heard this show before, you know we start every episode with Chris's challenging German word of the episode.
That's right.
Why don't you tell us what this is all about?
So the German word of the day, we're going to give you a crazy German word. We'll let Google pronounce it so that I can't be blamed for the butchering. And we'll go around the table. You can say your guess at what it is. And at the end of the episode, we will reveal who was right.
Or not.
Or lack thereof right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go here. Here is this one.
Kummerspeck.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question?
We will. Kummerspeck.
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 Did you get that one? Kummerspeck.
That's Kummerspeck.
Kummerspeck. Okay.
Got it?
Yeah. Jared looks like he knows what that means.
I have no idea. Let's see. Kummerspeck.
If you know it, just say it.
I'm going to say, yeah, right. It is a baking ingredient of some kind. I'm going to say baking powder.
Baking powder, okay.
German baking powder.
I like it.
Huh. Interesting. All right. Well, Robert, you're over there, so you're next.
All right, sounds good. I have no idea. I'm going to say that it is actually the sound that you make when you hiccup and burp at the same time.
Oh,
That's
but in German.
in German. Yes.
Yes.
Sound when burping and hiccuping at the same time.
Yes. The comedian Tim Allen had a word that was called a verp.
All right.
Right, of course.
It's kind of the American equivalent of the Kummerspeck in your case. So what I think Kummerspeck means, I don't know. So I'm going to say it's a chalkboard.
A chalkboard. Good guess. Okay.
It's not a good guess.
The votes have been tabulated, and I will let you know that all of you are wrong later.
Yes. Well, there you go. All right. Well, on to the rest of the monkey business.
Right.
So I have been a patron here at the Stubborn German Brewing Company since it opened, and I knew Chris and his beer before this place even opened. And every once in a while, he would talk about this, and I'm joking, it's not a secret society, but it's an interesting group called the Ferm, right? F-E-R-M. And he would reference that the Ferm had maybe something to do with brewing, maybe had some influence, maybe had some ideas, maybe had some techniques to share, maybe had some lessons, maybe had meetings and whatnot. And I was never really super clear on what the Ferm is, so that's why we decided to bring Robert in, because you've been a member of the Ferm for a long time.
Correct. Yeah, I've been a member since the first meeting. It was a really different atmosphere than it is now. We met in a bar that was still a fabric shop and had holes in the floor, and it's been a great ride for sure.
So what is the Ferm, and what's with the name F-E-R-M, Ferm?
Well, Ferm, of course, is short for fermentation, and you get the whole pun involved there. The secret society business, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I made that up, but
Right. We might roll with that, though.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Well, and I can kind of take over too, as far as what we the way this all started. I guess way before I had the idea to have a brewery, I was a home brewer for probably 9 or 10 years before we opened the brewery, and I was in the St. Louis Brews Homebrew Club, which met in St. Louis.
Yes,
if you can follow me. So
I'm with you.
Yeah. So, you know...
It's named after the baseball team.
Yes. the Brews, obviously the baseball team.
Yes, yes.
Very good. So basically, it's a monthly meeting. It's a group of homebrewers. I had a friend, a family friend of ours, introduced me to that group, and I was kind of hooked from the first meeting. And I was in it probably, 6 or 7, 8 years, something like that. And I got so involved in it that I eventually became the full-time. They have a position called the Brewmeister, which is the guy that pours and serves the beer and is in charge of food for the meetings. So basically, I'd have the Brew's debit card. I'd go to the grocery store, buy a bunch of stuff, and we're not talking too fancy of a fare here, but.
Sure.
It was just enough to kind of put something in your stomach to where you could drink a few of these home brews and not be waddling out of there at the end. So
Overtaken.
Yeah, overtaken by So, but yeah, basically, I did that for about 2 or 3 years. Was the Brewmeister for them, and whenever we decided that we were going to open our own brewery, I just thought, how cool would it be to have something like that, but in town, and I wouldn't have to drive to St. Louis. It was purely selfish reasons, honestly. And I kind of thought, the brews are for all of St. Louis. There were a couple other homebrew clubs at the time. Now there's many more. But at that point, there was maybe 2 or 3 others. It was Garage Brewers, and I think STL Hops were just kind of starting up. And then the brews. And the brews were around since the early to mid-'80s, I think. They've been around as long as I've been around. So they were the first. They were one of the first in the country, actually, as a homebrew club. But yeah, so I was just kind of thinking, if all of St. Louis is served by 3 homebrew clubs, what are the odds that Waterloo can pull off anything at all?
Right, and for those who are listening in other corners of the world, Waterloo is about 25 miles from the edge of St. Louis. Half hour, 40 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
So that's apparently too far for Chris to go.
That's way too far for me to go.
You wanted the home game.
I did. Oh, the East Side Brewers was around too then. So that was a norther. The northern
Yes.
part of the Gateway Metro. So.
Yeah, I live 2 blocks away, and that's right, really at the limit of how far I'm willing to go for a homebrew club.
You're thinking about starting your own club in your basement, aren't you?
Potentially. I mean, it saves on the walk.
For people that live closer.
Right.
I love it. So, but yeah, so I don't know how did we even do this? I guess was it one of those festivals that we were giving away our beer? I think, and I had those little cards, I think, and that said, "Come to our first meeting" or something.
Is
that what?
My wife worked for a local business, and you were the mechanic for the business.
Oh, yeah.
And I think one time when she'd brought her car in, I'd sent a couple of homebrews because I'd heard a rumor you homebrewed.
That's right.
And I said, hey, I don't have anybody else to share this with who knows beer, so
Nice.
tell him to drink them and let me know what he thinks. And Chris was very nice because they were not very good, but then
they were terrific.
When he started putting together the club, I think. He'd mentioned that he remembered getting beer over at his mechanic shop.
So he must be a brewer.
That's great.
So we found member number 1 right there. But we had the first meeting here in the brewery in the building, and this was while it was still completely under construction. I think it was maybe still under demolition. We weren't even going back together with it yet. It was very, very early on. I want to say it was in October, November was our first meeting.
It was November, yeah.
So, and then we opened that following April. So it was
you had a
a
long way
very
to go, yeah.
dusty mess at that point. And I even remember a couple of occasions saying, telling some of the members, this was later on, saying, if you want heat at the next, Ferm meeting or a bathroom, come and help,
Come build it.
Yeah, and they did, which was awesome. They worked for beer quite a bit, actually.
So how did the word get out about the club? I mean, and people start joining?
I mean, I guess kind of word of mouth, really, when we started a Facebook page, but, I mean, it's very tough to just start a Facebook page and get good traction there. I mean, it was really word of mouth. And
Now, did you know, being a home brewer, did you happen to know other local home brewers already or from the St. Louis Brews Club? Or
I mean, not really. I mean, I didn't steal any other members from the brews whatsoever.
So everybody just kind of came out of the woodwork when they heard about this.
Yeah, exactly. And I honestly, I went into it thinking that this might be a meeting of about 2 or 3 people. I knew Robert was coming. I think there was one other person I knew was going to be there, and that was it. And It's like if this just turns out to be 2 or 3 months of 3 or 4 guys just hanging out and then that's it, that's fine. Like I'm fine with it. It is what it is. I didn't really expect it to blow up and take off, but I mean, yeah. How many members do we have now?
Well, I don't know. Before everything sort of quieted down in the last year, I think we had a membership of right around 50 members.
Wow.
And I think that first meeting only had 13 people, including you, Tammy, and Mike and Heather.
Wives were involved too,
That's right.
which obviously, I mean, my wife is not a home brewer, but she was interested in seeing the club take off. So
Sure.
yeah. Mike and Heather Hemmer were there to help start it off too. That's right. Yep.
That's right.
So at these meetings, I mean, obviously it stuck, and people wanted to join, and more people joined. So was this something that was, we're just going to hang out and drink beer, or did we have a mission?
Totally.
Well, I mean, I would
Go ahead,
imagine
Robert.
that.
What's the mission?
Well, the mission always devolves into let's hang out and drink beer. Let's be clear about that.
It
right
ends
up
up
front.
that way.
Well, you got to be social afterwards,
That's, well, and during. I think that's the big struggle, right? That's the struggle of every homebrew club.
Yes.
But I mean, really the mission, I think, is to get people to brew outside of their comfort zone, to taste beer outside of their comfort zone, and to critically do both.
Well put. Yeah.
Hey, thanks.
I like that, to critically do both.
Yeah.
It's, okay, it's a pretty bad day if I pour out beer. I'll drink what I brew. That's generally how it goes, But at the same time, to do your best to brew it and to really get something out of the creations that not only you've made, but the people around you have made, it makes all of us better brewers. I think we get to enjoy the craft that much more if we can really appreciate some of the things that we're pulling out of the flavors, the smells, the appearances, all the things that make a great beer.
Mm-hmm. And I think brewing in particular is an interesting challenge, because the first challenge is just to create something. It worked. You got something. And
we made beer.
We made something. And the other side of that is it might suck, but you as a brewer, you get the gratification of and the excitement of, well, look, I made something. And I think it's interesting to have a critical group of people that have done this also, that appreciate that moment, but can also say, hey, you know what? If you want this to be, actually drinkable, you want to try this.
Yeah. And that's the that is the club in a nutshell. Really, it's share your beer. So yeah, we let's pretend COVID never happened. We would yeah, here. But we would have meetings in the basement once a month. Are we at the third Wednesday of the month? I'm in all these clubs that they're all the second of this or the third that. But yeah, third Wednesday of the month is the Ferm, and it's in the basement here in the brewery. And basically, if you're into homebrew whatsoever, you're free to come and hang out and check us out. And I don't know, do we charge a couple bucks for the food? Basically, we do have some food. We recommend eating before anyway, and then this is kind of the supplement to that, we have such good participation among our members. I mean, I think if there's 25 members present, we usually have 20 beers. I mean, I feel like hardly anybody shows up empty-handed, which is not expected whatsoever. Most groups, most homebrew clubs don't have that kind of participation, and it's no fault of their own. It's a lot of these clubs are bigger. I know in the brews we were up to, I want to say some meetings were 70-ish people. Like there was quite a few people, and you're making a 5-gallon batch of beer, and you got to give away 1.5 gallons, 2 gallons of your. I mean, that's quite a bit to ask to give away, especially if it was maybe a high alcohol beer or something you put $40 worth of hops in or something, and now you have to give a pretty good portion of that away. But for us, being a little bit more tight knit and smaller, it's no problem at all to bring a 0.5 gallon in and share it and get really good feedback. So talk about the format of the meeting, Robert. How we anonymously taste and then. Sure.
Yeah. So there's Chris had mentioned earlier that he was the designated Brewmeister for the brews, and we actually have a rotating thing going on, so that way everybody gets a chance to relax during the meeting, and at least most meetings, and so that Brewmeister basically is the only person who knows who made the beer, and they walk around and pour it for everyone and let them know what kind of style it is, and we usually have a discussion about what to expect from that style as it's being poured. People taste it, give feedback, and one thing that we really encourage during the meetings is to not only give honest feedback, but to give detailed, honest feedback. So don't just say, hey, this is good, or I don't like it. Really get into the beer a little bit. Talk about why it's good, why you don't like it, why it fits the style, why it's good even though it doesn't fit the style, things along those lines.
I can really taste the goat milk.
Right, exactly. That's right.
Well, I've been to one of the meetings kind of by happenstance. It was happening here outside.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, in the back. And I was, which leads into my next question of what are the qualifications of a member? Because I don't brew, but I appreciate beer. And I kind of felt like a little bit like I was kind of crashing the party because Chris was very inviting. And he's like, no, sit down, enjoy. We're in the middle of a meeting, but come on out, you're here. And I found everybody to be just super welcoming. And it was the strangest thing. They're like, no, you need to try mine. Like, I want to hear what you think about this instead of, get your hands off my beer. So it was a really generous.
That's the attitude of every single home brewer I think I've ever met is the same.
Yeah.
Thing. Look what I made. Check this out.
Yeah.
Right. The challenge isn't ever to get a home brewer to let you try their beer. The challenge is to get them to stop talking about beer.
Get them to stop talking about what the what IPA means and the history of it.
Right.
But as far as qualifications are concerned, there's really none. I can think of at least 2 people in the history of our membership who didn't brew at all, and after attending a couple meetings were like, hey, I kind of like this group of people. I like what we're doing here. I like what we're tasting. I'm going to go ahead and, fork up my membership fee. And then now, 2-3 years later, they actually brew probably more than I do, and that's and these are folks who had never considered brewing beer before.
That's cool.
Brad, for example, is one, that he'd never brewed a batch of beer before he came to one of our meetings.
I guess I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, that's neat.
That's awesome.
And I think the other thing I noticed is that I think people tend to presume, anyway, that any type of appreciation group for anything, if it's going to be wine or beer or classic cars or whatever, that there's going to be some pretentiousness, like, we're in the club and you don't belong. But I never got that. It was just everybody was super welcoming.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's just such a typical attitude for any home brewer. I mean, our group I know for sure, but any others that I've met, everyone is so welcoming, and they genuinely want to get someone else into the hobby and help people. They want to help them along, and here's the equipment I bought, and here's some cool ingredients, and do you need some hops? I got some hops for you. Just
so
any of that.
Are we saying now that you guys are taking more members, and if so, what does somebody have to do?
We're always we're all, the door's always open. So I mean, the basement can only hold so many people, and with COVID and all that, we're I think the next meeting we're talking about going back in person. That was the talk anyway. So. But we have been doing Zoom here lately, so obviously, I mean, Zoom is no problem if we go that route here.
It's hard to share beers over Zoom.
Yeah,
it gets messy.
It's the current president's come up with an ingenious plan for that, which is that he has a bottle drop off in the early part of the month, and then anybody who participates in the bottle drop off can come and pick up a sample of the other bottles that were dropped off, and then we'd still do a tasting discussion over the Zoom call.
That is a great idea.
It's not 100% participation, but it's as good as you're going to get in this kind of situation. So,
yeah, you guys just didn't hang it up for the whole COVID period and say forget it.
No, we still like to drink beer.
Yeah. That's a thing.
If anything, maybe more so now.
Well, so I remember, in addition to being a patron here at the Stubborn German, Chris and I are also involved in the Waterloo Optimist Club. And an event that has been occurring through the Optimist, which is a youth fundraising organization, is called the Beerbecue, and it's an event that has a barbecue competition, and then there's also a homebrew component of people that are competing and presenting their homebrew. And I think the vast majority of the brewers were the Ferm Club members.
That is my recollection on I think we've had it for 2 years, is that right?
Yeah, we had it for 2 and then had to skip the next 2. So
Right.
Watch out for that fifth year. It's going to be nuts.
It's going to be serious, yeah. But what was cool is that this was a spot where in the town square of Waterloo, there was, table tent after table tent of homebrewers just happy to share and tell their story, like you're saying. And Lord knows I sampled quite a bit and learned a lot. That
You did not.
Yeah, that I don't really remember all the stuff I learned that day.
Kevin, you came to me at the end of the day of the first year of BBQ and said, "This is the greatest gig I've ever done."
I wasn't lying.
People feed me beer, and all I have to do is talk.
Yes. Well, so I was, fortunate enough to be the MC of this event. And
Right.
in the beginning, I must say, I was a little bit apprehensive because you don't want to say the wrong thing or come across like you don't know what you're talking about. Because I'm not, the world's scholar on beer or barbecue. I know I like both of them.
You can hold your own.
I held my own with both hands. But it was so great to go from, taste station to taste station. And the challenging part became being on the microphone later in the day because I was kind of, rectally speaking. And but nobody really seemed to care, and everybody had fun. So I thought that was really cool. Great participation. And I found it interesting that the timing was on, and everybody had stuff to bring out because brewing is a cyclical deal. It's right. You don't just brew today and drink tomorrow.
Right. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, our planning the first year certainly was last minute, but we got everybody on board right away. We said, okay, we're doing this thing. I think we planned it the day before our February meeting and said, okay, we're going to do this. This is a go. And then at the February meeting, we said, okay, you guys have 2.5 months. Go.
Start making beer.
So it was enough heads up time to...
And everybody did, and some people made 2, and I think a couple people made 3, and then we attracted some other area brewers or some brewers from other clubs, and man, I think we had 60 beers that first year.
I think it was 6...
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was crazy. I think my goal for our club was to have 50 beers. I thought, with the number of, people we expected to come in, and I was kind of one of the organizers as well. So it was just like, how many ounces are you going to get per pour? Trying to do the math. Like, is there going to be enough beer to where everybody gets to try, X amount of ounces or whatever.
Or at least feels good about the entrance fee.
Yeah, right. Which I mean, it was a a pretty fair amount. I think we didn't really go overboard there, but yeah, we had 50 as the goal and surpassed that and had like 60, and then I think the next year was I believe was even more than that.
64, I think.
Wow!
Unless I had a couple of them twice. I didn't have 64.
You remember all 64? That's amazing.
I remember one of those years it rained, I think, right?
Oh,
The
gosh,
second
the second
year.
year.
Second one.
So
But
the first year
nobody
was
cared.
yeah. The first year was so hot that I mean, there was Sunburn City, and we had tents everywhere, and
The heat was basically just an accelerant for the effects of drinking the beer.
Yeah.
But it was very refreshing.
And so, okay, we didn't really talk about the. So it's obviously it's a barbecue competition, but it's also a beer competition. So as you get as you walk through the gates, you get you basically you're going to walk through and try as many beers as you can, and you're going to vote for your top 3. We had a bunch. I think it was tickets, right? So then you voted you put your tickets in whichever you thought was the best beer. The first year when it was really, really hot, the winner was Pineapple Lightning War.
Yes.
That was Jason and Matt's beer, and that was just perfect in the hot weather. It was, had pineapple, was fruity, nice hoppy, just
Very refreshing.
Very, very refreshing, yeah. And it just hit the spot.
And that was also their first time brewing, right?
That was
Sort
their
of?
first all grain batch, which might as well be their first time brewing. I mean, if you're listening to this and know anything about home brewing, there's the extract way, which is still absolutely legitimately beer, and you can make very good beer with just extract. But to do an all grain beer, that's basically like making that extract. So it's kind of one step back and doing all that, and you have more control over the process and over the ingredients that you use and freshness, all that stuff. So a lot of advantages. Just about every brewery I can think of is an all grain brewery. Mm-hmm. Home brewers, maybe 70-30, 30 to the extract side, something like that, if I had to just guess off the top of my head. I don't know.
It probably depends on experience level, honestly. That there's you talked about all the advantages of all grain brewing. There's also several more opportunities to really, really destroy a beer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's also true.
Yeah.
But where I was going with the nice, refreshing beer on the hot day, the very next year, it rained and was very cold. I mean, it was so cold, I think I remember halfway through, I came in. I actually brought a change of clothes. I came into the brewery. I changed clothes. I like warmed up for a minute and soaked my hands under some hot water. And it's like, okay, back at it. Let's go. And
Yeah, I don't remember that part.
we didn't do that. But the winning beer that year was that was Bobby's
White Stout.
Zero Dark 30, the white stout.
That's right.
So people were craving those cold weather flavors. So pretty cool. So white stout is basically a pale colored beer, but it's got chocolate and coffee, chocolate coffee.
Yes.
Body.
I think vanilla. Yeah, body. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That was
all that.
It was good. Yeah, I do
It's
remember that one for
it's
sure.
kind of cool. The winter is going to be totally dependent on the weather that day.
Well, and then the other fun thing for the home brewer is that whoever wins this event gets to have their beer brewed here at the Stubborn German in a professional brewery.
Yeah, they come here. They you got to sign your recipe over. I'm going to need that.
Well,
No,
I was just going to ask, does the firm spill over to the brewery? Do you get recipe ideas or whatever? But it sounds like
all the time. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Again, I'm a home brewer at heart. I mean, that's where I started. And to me, this equipment here, it looks fancy, but it's no more than just really big homebrew. I mean, it's very simple. You drag a pump over to whatever tank you want to move liquid to, and hook a hose up to the one you want to go the other way. And I mean, it's the same kind of a system that I was using when I was making 10-gallon batches at home. So it was pretty easy to use this exact equipment and step up to from 10 gallons to 100 gallons.
Scale it.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So when I get suggestions or ideas or even just at a meeting, if someone brings in a really good beer, I mean, I'm totally going to that guy and saying, hey, you want to make that beer in the brewery sometime? And I know Steve Agnew has done that a couple times with his beers. I can't think of all of them, but I mean, that's happened probably 6-7 times, I'd bet.
That's got to be super cool for the home brewer to say.
When are we going to get one of your beers, Robert, in here?
He's got one?
I think this Black Friday is when that beer is supposed to get released, is what I heard. But
the bagpipe.
It's been in the barrel for in the barrel and the keg, I guess, for a year and a half now, or a year.
No, it's still in the barrel. Yeah,
it's still in the barrel.
Yep.
Okay.
I've been tasting it monthly, and it's not quite there, but it's very close.
So tell me about this beer.
Oh, this is a Scottish wee heavy, so it's all sugar and everything nice and alcohol, and it is a big heavy beer. And I think we actually brewed that here after we won a club competition.
That's right. That's how it started. So
Yep.
the beer that you're talking about now that's actually the second batch of this. So we've already been through one batch of it. And that's long gone, and we rebrewed it a year and whatever ago.
A year and 3, 4, or 5 months ago, something
and so,
like that.
Yeah, it's in 53-gallon barrels now, and a big beer like that just really benefits from some time to just kind of mellow out. And if you would drink it on day one as we put it into the barrel, I mean, you would never think that you're going to pull anything decent out of that, at any point. And sure enough, a year later, it's like, oh, this is not too bad here. The oak, the tannins in the oak, kind of serves as a bittering component and goes against all the sweet that's still in the beer. You probably still get a little bit of extra fermentation to kind of get rid of a little more of those sugars. So the end product, while it is kind of, I'm not going to say it's syrupy, but it is definitely a sweet beer. It's not unpalatably sweet, if that's even a word.
Sure.
Unpalatably.
Yeah, it's got all those tannins to really, I don't know, almost tart it up, a little bit. So
really,
yep.
It's
It turns into something completely different than the day you pull it out of the fermenter.
Right.
Which I remember the first time we brewed that beer, and Chris looked very worried when he pulled it out of the fermenter.
What is this?
Yep.
Well, you have to try it.
He said, I don't know what we're going to do.
Yeah. Well, the plan was not to put that in barrels on the first batch. We put it into barrels because it was a mess.
It was very sweet. And you know what? Honestly, a year later, it was far better than anything I'd brewed at home as far as that style.
It was delicious after a
Nice.
year in a barrel, yeah. And that was a small barrel. I think that was 15-gallon barrels. So, so I knew that this second round was not to freak out on day one like we did the first time. It's going to be okay. And, like I said, it's been in there for, 13, 14 months. And I've been trying it the past couple months. Once a month, I'll go down and taste barrels that I think are getting ready, and it's all there. Except I feel like it just needs a little bit more of that bourbon character to show up, to kind of so that that like when I taste a barrel aged beer, like I want to know that was in a whiskey barrel. Like bam, there it is. It's a whiskey barrel beer. Let's do this. Not kind of like, I guess maybe was it barrel aged? I don't know.
Really, it was.
That's kind of where it's at right now. So it might be another month or 2 or 3. Who knows?
I mean, to be fair, that beer when it comes out of the fermenter tastes like it's got whiskey in it already. So
that's true.
So it's flavoring the barrel.
Right, pretty much. Yeah.
Chris, you mentioned a homebrew competition with the firm, a club competition. So tell me what that's all about.
Well, let's see. We have one going now. We do those quite often, actually. How many total competitions within our club have we done? Probably 4 or 5, I would think, by now.
I think more than that, because I think
maybe 6 or 7.
I think we've done a couple a year, pretty much.
Yeah,
almost our entire run. So I bet we're closing in on 10.
Yeah, you might be right. So and that usually ends up as the winning team or the winning brewer. That's kind of the prize. I don't know if it's a prize anymore. I feel like everybody in the club has come in here and brewed a beer on our system. So we might have to come up with a new prize at some point. But
that's still a cool prize, man. Don't sell yourself short.
I still have fun with it. I love brewing with company and help and So, but anyway, the one we're doing now. Are you doing it?
I am. Yeah, it's in a couple of days. Right, is when we kick it off.
The draft, right?
Yep.
So, well, you talk. You'd probably know more about it than I at this point.
Oh boy, this is somebody else's idea, but it's called a snake draft.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And so basically,
we brew with snakes.
That's right, snakes.
Sure.
Copperhead lager.
It's basically think of like your a live fantasy football draft, but with beer ingredients, right? And so we have specialty malt up there, several different varieties of hops, a special ingredient, which really means something to make your beer awful, and then you supply your
unique
own.
Is what they're saying.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I used the wrong word. Yes, unique avocados,
right?
And
undershorts.
And we kind of go back and forth across all the teams in the room, and if you get to pick first in the first round, well, you get to pick last in the second round, and we do the specialty malts, and then we do the hops, and then we do the special ingredient, and God, you want to pick first for the special ingredient.
Oh,
for
sure.
certain.
Yeah. So if you get really, really good hops, you might get really bad malt or whatever, or bad yeast or so.
Right.
Least desirable, I guess you could say.
Right, and I think basically we're doing a pretty big share with the judges, and then we'll.
And is that going to be like a tournament style, or is this just a one-time?
I believe it's a one-time with score sheets. Is how
cool.
we're doing this one.
So it'll be short-lived, which is probably good because a lot of times we'll get into these. We do it, March Madness style with brackets and all that, and. You lose the first round and you're done for 6 or 8 months. Meanwhile, everybody else is still brewing and into it and having fun and, razzing each other at meetings and stuff. And I lost my first round, so I'll sit over here.
In this case, the ingredients are laid out, and then it's up to the individuals to brew a beer using that stuff.
Using what they draft or get stuck with, depending on their draft order, yes.
Nice. So there's some challenges there for sure.
I think every beer there is going to be a challenge. I think there's some built into that.
Yeah. Well, that's the special ingredient is to throw you off and see if you can overcome and make some just dumb idea of an ingredient work in a beer somehow. How did you make marshmallow? Or actually, marshmallows aren't bad in beer, but
hey, that's what we won that first competition with. Was a s'mores Oktoberfest.
That's right, the s'mores Oktoberfest.
Which was, you're right, marshmallows was the dumbest idea ever, but it worked.
You don't know till you drink it.
It was the least bad.
There you go. All right, so if somebody's interested to join, how do they find out more about the firm?
Honestly, come to the brewery, and our bartenders have cards under the drawer, and I know we pass out a ton of cards there. We have a Facebook page, but it's iffy whether you'll get a response, honestly. So, but that is a way to do it. That is a way to do it. Actually, I think the new president, Chris, took that over now. So I would say that's probably the best way is to look up. I think it's the Ferm Homebrew Club, Monroe County, is what that page is called, I believe. And send a message there, and can get you all the information you'd want to know.
Right on. Well, at this point, all anybody wants to know is the result of the German word of the day.
Oh, boy. So we should hear it one more time, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Kummerspeck.
Kummerspeck. Remember?
That's not what she said, I don't think.
Really?
Did it sound like she says Kummerspeck? I don't know.
It still sounds like a cough and a burp at the same time.
Okay, yeah, so that was Robert's guess. The sound when you burp and hiccup at the same time. Jared said baking powder.
Baking powder,
And Kevin confidently and boldly said, that means chalkboard.
Right. Oh, man.
Again, as I said earlier, everyone is wrong. Of
course.
What else is new? That actually means grief bacon.
Oh, well, of course it does.
Bacon, yeah. So it's like it's kind of a funny saying, I guess. I mean, I guess it's like emotional eating. So if you're having a tough time at work
Grief
or whatever,
bacon.
you just need some bacon. You might put on a couple pounds.
Nice.
It's like
some bacon.
stress eating, specifically bacon.
Bacon.
In German.
All right.
Kummerspeck.
Kummerspeck.
Well, that's a
Sounds
thing,
good.
man.
Yeah, I may go have me some or do some Kummerspecking. I'm not really sure
But you would do celebratory Kummerspecking.
Yes, celebrate. Yeah, exactly. The other way around.
Yeah.
Emotional because I'm so happy.
Right. That's awesome. Well, that's good to know.
There you go. The more you know.
Yeah, that's right. Robert, it was a pleasure having you on.
Yeah, this has been great. Thanks. Thanks so much.
Appreciate the insights and all you do for the club. And, of course, Jared, thank you for spinning the dials and keeping us all equalized and
No
adding
problem.
your insight. And, Chris, as always, interesting to learn about your involvement with the club and a little bit more of the history that led us to where we are today with the brewery. And I think it's very cool that, regular club members can get a chance at seeing their beer come to life at an actual bar.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't think everybody gets that chance in other cities,
Other breweries do it, but I don't know. I said, I'm a friendly fellow and
Work with
appreciate
me
it a little.
here. I'm trying to hype it up,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if nothing else, it's a great place to come and taste homebrewers
Absolutely.
beer on
There you go.
a massive scale.
Yeah,
Sure. Great.
right off a tapper, instead of a bucket or something. All right, well, you've been listening to the Stubborn German podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do like this kind of stuff, click that subscribe button, and you will be updated with all of our latest episodes. We welcome you to come by the Stubborn German Brewing Company if you want to try perhaps somebody's homebrew or a version that Chris has purloined from a member to make on his taps as well. Always welcome to stop in. I'm Kevin Ostie. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Stubborn German Podcast.
Wait, do you know when the firms, was it 5 years ago this past November, I guess?
This is a good question for the show, man.
Well, I gotta
Okay,
count.
never mind.
I have to count. So I gotta
We are
be-
recording, so okay, never mind. Go ahead.
We can edit that out. It's fine.
You need to leave that in.